Right, so what we've done here, Shane's dug up a point at which the dripper pipe is dripping. So we've got low flow dripper, and we've putting fertilizer through the water. So it's fertigation, and what tends to happen is you get a mass amount of roots at the dripper point. So you get kind of like a
hot spot of roots.
Yeah, hot spot. It's almost like an organ or lung. If you think of an animal with a lung, it's just a tremendous amount of thick root mass that develops under each dripper point. And what we've also found is if you move the dripper pipe for some reason, that tree suffers quite quickly because the roots have to find a new dripper position.
I suppose a good time to do it is in winter, when the evapotranspiration is not that high. Then the impact of moving the dripper point is probably quite low.
Or sometimes we just move one line instead of both lines, just to
give it a month or two to recover from one line, and then move the next one a month or 6 weeks
later. So what are the reactions that you see in the tree? Do you just see sort of a bit of
scorching on the leaves?
Really?
If you move them
to
too
that
quickly,
extent? Okay, that's very interesting.
So there's
obviously it's hotter in summer too. But we are getting quite a lot of rain in summer. So
So obviously the roots are responding not just to the water, but also the higher concentration of fertilizer that's being added. So you're getting the double effect of fertilizer and water, and then the tree is obviously responding directly to that source and concentrating its roots there. Okay, so I think we've just discussed the roots, which has been quite interesting. But now also looking at these flowers here on these 816s. We're at a very crucial stage in terms of protecting your flowers from funguses. So there are a range of various funguses that attack macadamia, not just the flowers. The husk of the nut gets attacked. You also have Phytophthora, which many people already know about, that often attack the root system. But in particular in the flowers, there's certain products that can be sprayed on the flowers to protect them against fungal attack. And there's one particular, the common name is blossom blight, which attacks when your humidity in sort of early spring climbs, and then the fungus sort of attacks the whole flower and you get a rot on the flower. And then there's another one called dry flower or rat's tail, which actually attacks the end of the flower in a period when the air is a lot drier. I'm just trying to see if we can find some dry flower here anyway, but maybe as we move along we'll find some. But the point is that if you want to treat your flowers, and I don't know, Shane, you must just bounce in here when you agree or disagree or want to add something, is that the flower at this stage is actually when the florets, which is the flower closed, you can just zoom in here maybe quickly. You can see that the flowers are not open, so the delicate little parts of the flower and the pollen and the stigma and everything are still protected by the closed flower. You can then spray a product onto that flower, and you can get the sort of the active ingredient protecting the delicate petals and the delicate parts of the flower from fungal rot, and I think that's crucial. But I think what we're also seeing as the industry learns and matures is that if you're spraying any products, even foliar feeds, etc., when the flowers are open, you find that it can damage the yield potential of that tree. And I think, I don't know, Shane, you agree with me maybe on that?
Certainly the case in other agricultural crops. You try and avoid your peak flowering period, especially systemic fungicides. You try and avoid
I think
spraying.
with your first spray that you want to get with your flowers, 60% of your flowers extended racemes like this. Before they start opening, you're always going to have one or two flowers open. In the beginning, you'll never get it 100% accurate, but 60% of your flowers on a tree or on your block, roughly like that, and you'll be hitting it at the right time.
What we've also seen with other crops is adding stickers or some other additive to the chemical that can increase its toxicity to the plant. It might work better from a fungal point of view, but the plant, the tree you're trying to protect, can be damaged.
Just talking on the toxicity, actually, it's a good segue, because what happens as well with fungicides is it's very popular at the moment to drench with your neonics, which are your imidacloprids or your acetamiprid or anything like that. And what happens if those products have been systemically taken up by the tree and are in the tissue, and then you use a fungicide, and bees get a cocktail of a fungicide with a neonic in it, it does a lot of damage. It almost doubles the toxicity of your chemical load on the flower to the bee. So, you know, also remember that you drench only in a separate stage of your tree husbandry versus when you're putting your fungicides down, and try and avoid those two chemicals being together at the same time when the bees arrive. I think that's also very important.
Just
I
here
think Graham has
quickly,
found a better root ball
I
there.
found a nice root ball under this tree, and you can see that density of this is quite a sandy soil, so it should fall apart, but the roots are holding it nicely. So it becomes like almost like a doormat of thick roots under each dripper. So that's one of the differences we've seen between micro and drip irrigation, and how the roots respond to the different mechanisms.
And just maybe, if I can add to that, is that Macs are particularly, or they've evolved specifically to feed off the surface of the soil, because in a rainforest situation you've actually got pretty poor denuded soils below that. So what the roots do is they almost forage on the soil surface looking for fungal material, and they actually wait for that fungal and wet leaf litter to leach nutrients just into the soil surface, and then they absorb those nutrients.
You can see there, Rohan, there's some organic matter that's kind of decomposing, and the roots have
colonized
really
it.
attacked it.
And interestingly enough, there's another sort of variation where we used to say if a root has got what are called those root, I've forgotten the name now. Those nodules, those little
Proteoid roots.
Yeah, the proteoid roots, thanks.
I can't actually find any. I don't know what they look like, Joe.
A few years ago, everybody would say if you find them, that means that you've got a healthy tree. But actually, the sort of the current discussion is that if you find them, it means that you actually got so little P that you could add a little bit of P, even though everybody's worried about it. But here you can see that these trees have been fed the correct blend with the micronutrients and macronutrients. So they're not having to overcompensate by growing the proteoid roots.
Can you see some of these,
Yeah, they're small though.
And you find them quite often on very sandy soils and poor nutrient load. Then you'll get a quite active
look
proteoid
how that
roots.
organic matter is coming in there. That's
Just another thing I suppose we can also add, which is quite interesting from a management of your moisture. Because Macs are meant to grow in regions of high rainfall, but it's not always that the rainfall falls at the same time. You get a lot of dry patches. So the Mac trees actually almost harvest rain and collect it. And you can see that all the branches, not like a citrus tree, they actually all run vertically down to the center and then dump the moisture right around the base of the tree. So if you're looking at managing your mulch and getting a high return on mulch effect, almost, you want to be able to concentrate your mulch around the base of the tree, so that those rainfall events, those 15 or 20 mil rainfall events, basically dump the equivalent of maybe 30 or 40 mils around the base of the tree, and then with the mulch you get that active conversion of nutrients in the mulch into the tree. And you'll often actually see, if you look right at the base of the tree,
a lot of roots here as well.
Yeah,
Amount of roots here.
you can almost find the most root concentration right at the base.
And there wasn't dripper here either.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't have enough mulch or compost around the base of the tree and your soil is too bare, it'll cause quite a bit of erosion, with what Rohan was talking about just now, with the water coming down the trunk of the tree and then actually washing the soil away.
Yeah, the monster root. I mean, that's literally, okay, well it's as, but you can actually see the roots, you can actually see the root hairs on the top. As a, I mean, that actually,
If you can find a proteoid root here.
so this is almost, so if you look at the profile here, you can crumble it away. But the closer I get to the top of the surface, you'll find that you're getting this root density right at the top, and all these little fine micro hairs. Sorry. You'll find that these fine micro hairs collect on the top here, and that's where they're actively looking for nutrients in the top. So
okay, can you see roots that have gone up into this litter? I think we saw that on one of the other farms. They sort of like start.
yeah, sometimes also if you look right at the base, you've got a high concentration right at the base here.
Have a look at that side, Chris.
Normally it looks like a flat on the root, it's a fluffy section on the, but there's hardly any of it, which maybe as Rohan says is a good sign. Not pure material and not having to form to.
But you'll also find here, if I try and dig my fingers in here, it's actually closed. So I can't physically break in here because I can feel the roots have closed here. And another thing is you can see, it's not that easy to see, but you can see these white sort of moldy sections here. So what's happening is that you're getting mycorrhizae and soil fungi. Here's a good example. So you're getting soil fungi that are starting to break the lignin down in this material and making the nutrient available to the roots. And that's crucial. Actually, macadamias prefer a mycorrhizal dominated soil microbial environment rather than a bacterial one. So, all right.
Yeah, thanks, Rohan.